At the time of this recording, we are only 2 weeks away from the Under-17's World Cup starting. It's being hosted by Indonesia and starts on the 10th of November, and the final will be held on the 2nd of December. There's 24 teams split into 6 groups. The top 2 in each group go through, along with the 4 best third place teams to the round of 16. Now, with that being said, we're going to get straight into Group A, which is Indonesia, Ecuador, Panama and Morocco. And in 4th place, I've got the host nation, Indonesia. This is their first ever appearance at the Under-17 World Cup, and despite having the home field advantage and a huge crowd backing them, I think it'll be really tough for them to get out of this group. They've just been on a training camp in Germany where they played 7 matches against various German youth teams, and Indonesia won 2, lost 4 and drew 1, which isn't a great record. However, I think they'll be competitive in this group as there is some promise in this team, like forward Arkan Kakar, but my player to watch is the 16-year-old right back Welber Jardim, who plays for the Sao Paulo Academy over in Brazil. He moved from Indonesia to Brazil at the age of 5, and with him growing up in Brazil and coming through a highly rated Brazilian youth academy, he's been exposed to more advanced training methods, so maybe he's further along in his development than a lot of other players. He's a very good futsal player, and as a result of that, he's comfortable on the ball and in possession, and he's my one to watch. Now, in 3rd place, I'm going for Panama. They reached the semi-final of the CONCACAF Under-17 Championship, where they were defeated 5-0 by Mexico, and they were very inconsistent in that tournament. There were some games where I was impressed with them, and other games where they didn't look that great. They are playing a few preparation games at the moment, and so far they've lost 4-0 to Senegal, in a game where they were really poor and gave the ball away a lot, then a 2-1 defeat against Ecuador, so it's not been the ideal preparation, but I do think they'll finish above Indonesia. As for the player to watch, it has to be the winger Kevin Walder. He was brilliant in the CONCACAF Championship, scoring 4 goals and making it into the team of the tournament, so look out for him, but I've got Panama in 3rd. In 2nd place, I've gone with Morocco. This is only the 2nd time the Under-17s have qualified for the World Cup, but they reached the final of the Under-17 AFCON where they were narrowly beaten by Senegal 2-1. Morocco have a really impressive setup with the Mohammed VI Football Academy, which is the most advanced and best training facility in Africa. The academy has been a huge success, and Morocco are starting to reap the rewards of it, with players like Youssef En-Nesyri and Azzedine Ounahi, who were excellent in the World Cup for Morocco, all coming through the academy there. And there's going to be some more gems in this Under-17 side who have come through this impressive training setup. A big miss for Morocco is the injury to midfielder Adam Chaki, who's one of Morocco's best youth prospects, so it's a shame that he's missing out. But they've got some very talented players like midfielder Anan Bafanda, who plays for the Juventus Academy, and striker Zakaria Wazain, who plays for the Ajax Academy. But my player to watch is the 17-year-old goalkeeper Taha Benrouzi, who many people are predicting that will be Morocco's future #1 goalkeeper. He's very highly rated and had a superb tournament at the AFCON Under-17s, so watch out for him. Now, in 1st place, I've got Ecuador. They were brilliant in the Under-17 South American Championship, where they finished 2nd, but they got a massive win over Argentina and held Brazil to a draw, so they've proven that they can compete with the very best Under-17 sides. Now, the big story around this Ecuador side is the fact that 16-year-old Kendry Páez has not been called up for the World Cup. He's incredibly highly rated, and on his 18th birthday, he will be signing for Chelsea for €20 million, but the reason he hasn't been called up is because he's way too good for the Under-17s. At the age of 16, he's already playing full 90-minute games for the Ecuador senior side, and the coaches didn't see the benefit of bringing him to the World Cup. But they still have some very talented players in his absence, like Kenny Arroyo and Michael Bermudez. But my player to watch is striker Alan Abondo. The 17-year-old is already playing first-team football in the Ecuadorian Serie A for Barcelona. He's fast, his movement is excellent for his age, and his hold-up play as a target man is brilliant, and I think he's got all the attributes to become a very good striker for Ecuador. Now on to Group B, we have Spain, Canada, Mali and Uzbekistan. And in 4th place, I've got Mali. Now it's a difficult decision to put Mali bottom of the group because they are traditionally very strong at the youth level. They've had some very strong performances in the Under-17 World Cup, finishing runners-up in 2015 and losing in the semi-final in 2017. But I'm not sure that this team is as strong as those years, and I don't think they're as strong as the other teams in the group. As for the player to watch, I've gone for the 16-year-old winger Ibrahim Diarra, who's a very exciting exciting talent, and there's been strong rumours that he'd signed a contract with Barcelona, and I believe that is because Barca have a partnership with the academy that he's currently at, but the Africa Foot Academy came onto Twitter to deny that a contract had been signed with Barcelona, but I think there is some definite interest in him, and he's my one to watch. As for third place, I've got Canada. I think Canada look incredibly strong defensively. They play with a back five, and they've got three centre-backs who are very good for the under-17 level, especially Lazar Stefanovic, who plays for the Toronto FC second team in the MLS Next Pro division. And I think they'll be very well organised and try and hit teams on the break. But the thing that was very noticeable in the CONCACAF Under-17 Championships is that going forward they lacked pace and they lacked ideas a lot of the time. And I think that's why they brought in both TJ Tide and Kevon Tavernier, who both play for teams in the Canadian Premier League. And they're both very fast, which should help to add what they were missing going forwards. And my player to watch is the centre-back Lazar Stefanovic, who I previously mentioned. He has a brilliant reading of the game for his age and he's very solid, very reliable player. So he'll be my one to watch. Now in second place I've got Uzbekistan. Football in Uzbekistan is in a good place at the moment. They reached the semi-final of the Asian Games not long ago. Both the under-20s and under-17s have qualified for the World Cups, and they're becoming really consistent at all age levels, and the youth teams have been putting on some good showings at the last few tournaments, so I'm expecting them to do well in this one. As for the player to watch out for, the captain Lazizbek Mirazev, he tends to play as an attacking midfielder and he's considered to be one of the best youth prospects that Uzbekistan have produced in years. He was outstanding at the Under-17 Asian Cup and he's a very agile player with a low centre of gravity, and he's a really difficult player to defend against and get the ball off, so he is my player to watch. And in first place I have got Spain. Even though they lost in the semi-final 3-1 to France at the Under-17 Euros, I was very impressed with them. They were a superbly technical side, as you'd expect considering it's Spain. The only thing is that the start of the Under-17 Euros for Spain was Lamine Yamal, but with him breaking into the Barcelona first team, there's no way they were going to allow him to come to the Under-17 World Cup. Plus he's already made his debut for the Spain senior side, so he's way above the Under-17s now. So in Yamal's absence, the star man for Spain is now Marc Guiu, who also plays for Barcelona. He actually made his debut for them last weekend coming off the bench, and within 23 seconds of coming onto the pitch, he scored to put Barcelona 1-0 up against Athletic Club, and that's how it finished with him scoring the winner. But they've allowed him to go to the Under-17 World Cup, and he's not like the usual prospects that come through the Barca Academy, who are typically quite small, technically very good in tight spaces, and whilst Guiu is still technically good, he's a lot taller at 6'1", and it's his speed and strength that kind of make him stand out, so he's one for you to keep an eye on. Now in Group C we have got Brazil, Iran, New Caledonia and England, and in fourth place I have got New Caledonia. Such a tough group for them to be drawn into with both England and Brazil, but they qualified by getting to the final of the OFC Under-17 Championships, where they lost narrowly to New Zealand 1-0, and New Zealand are incredibly dominant in Oceania, but they usually win the tournament by a much bigger margin. However, New Caledonia more than matched them and gave them a really good game, so I think they'll be a lot more competitive than what people are expecting. As for my player to watch, it's 17-year-old Nohan Albert. He usually plays as a winger for the Under-17s, but at club level, he tends to play as a number 8 in central midfield, so he can do both roles. He was given player of the tournament at the OFC Under-17s, and he's a player who has a very high energy, never stops running, always presses high up the pitch, and I think he's going to be a handful for defenders to deal with. Now in third place I've got Iran. At the Under-17 Asian Cup they had a really good group stage, but when it came to the knockout rounds they just about beat Yemen on penalties, which would have been a huge upset if they lost that, and they really didn't play well that game. And then in the next round they were beaten convincingly by Japan 3-0, but I don't think they'll finish bottom of the group because I think they'll beat New Caledonia, which is why I've got Iran in third. As for my player to watch, I've gone for 17-year-old Kazra Tahiri, who is a strong athletic striker that is brilliant at finding space inside the box. However, in the Asian Cup he did lack that composure in front of goal at times, but he is only a young player, and if he can improve on that he looks a very promising prospect. Now in second place I have gone with England, always strong at the youth level, and were even Under-17 champions in 2017 with the likes of Phil Foden, Jadon Sancho and Emile Smith-Rowe in the squad, and they've got another talented group of players who on paper should go far in this competition, but I don't think they are quite as good as Brazil, which is why I've got them in second. As for the player to watch, there's quite a few to pick from, but I'm going to go for 17-year-old Miles Lewis Skelly, who plays for the Arsenal Academy. He has played at left back for Arsenal quite a few times, but his main position is playing in central midfield. He can play as a 6 or an 8, and he's fantastic at winning the ball back, then driving forward with the ball through midfield. I'm very excited to see how he does at this World Cup. Now at the top of the group I've got Brazil. They're coming off the back of that Under-17 South American Championship victory, where they went unbeaten, winning 7 games and drawing 2. Now the best 17-year-old in Brazil is Endrick, who at the age of 18 will join Real Madrid for €60 million, but he won't be at the World Cup since he's an important player for Palmeiras. But they've got plenty of talent to replace him, and my player to watch is the striker Caio Elias. He plays for the Fluminense Under-20s and even made a senior appearance for the first team in the Copa Libertadores. He was excellent in the South American Championship, where he's joint top goal scorer with 5 goals. He's very quick with his strength and his ability to hold off defenders, and he's an excellent finisher, so keep your eye on him at this World Cup. Now in Group D we have Japan, Poland, Argentina and Senegal. Now this is a really difficult group to call, as all 4 of these teams have the ability to make it to the knockout round, but in fourth I've gone with Japan. Now even though they won the Under-17 Asian Cup, I did see some weaknesses in this side, which makes me think they'll finish bottom. Firstly, the goalkeeper was very poor all the way through the Asian Cup, and it's a miracle that he didn't concede more goals. He made a lot of mistakes and his positioning was just way off, so they need to improve their goalkeeper. And the 2 centre-backs were okay, but they had some shaky moments in the knockout games with both Australia and Iran, which makes me think that they can be got at. But my player to watch is 17-year-old Gaku Nawata. He's an attacking midfielder that tends to play behind the striker. He was awarded the player of the tournament in the Asian Cup, where he was sensational, scoring 5 goals, 2 of those being in the final, and I'm shocked that he's not been signed to a J-League club yet, as he's a very good prospect. In third I've got Poland. I was very impressed with Poland at the Under-17 Euros, where they reached the semi-finals, losing to Germany, but the worry for Poland is that going into this World Cup they've had a lot of injuries to this group of players, and some of the players that they've taken aren't yet fully fit, and at the time of this recording they've just lost 5-2 to the Portugal Under-17s, so I'm not quite as high on Poland as I was after the Euros, but I'm still backing them to finish third. As for the player to watch, 17-year-old Daniel Michalewski, who plays for the Parma Academy in Italy, is one to keep an eye on. He scored a lot of goals for Poland Under-16s and 17s, and in September he scored a hat-trick against Croatia for the Under-18s, and whilst I don't think he's going to be the next Lewandowski, he's a good goal scorer, and if he continues on this trajectory I can see him getting some caps for the Poland senior team. As for second place, I've got the Under-17 AFCON champions Senegal. This is only the second time at the Under-17 World Cup, but this group of players are very highly rated and I expect them to do well. As for the player to watch, it has to be 15-year-old winger Amara Diouf. He finished as the top scorer in the Under-17 AFCON with 5 goals, and at the time he was only 14 years old, which is crazy. He's already had a call up to the Senegal senior side, where he made his debut against Rwanda to become Senegal's youngest ever debutant, and in terms of what he's like as a player, he's very direct and loves running at players in those 1v1 situations. He has incredible pace and dribbling ability for his age, and there is a reason why he's considered one of Africa's most exciting talents, and I expect him to go on and play at the highest level. And in first place I've got Argentina. Now there's a big desire for Argentina to win this tournament, as they've won the World Cup at every age level apart from the Under-17s, which is surprising as they've got a very strong youth system, so you thought they would have won it at least once. And really there's 2 players to watch out for on this Argentina side. One is tricky winger Gianluca Prestiani, who plays for Vélez Sarsfield, but the player that I'll be focusing on is 17-year-old Claudio Echeverri. He's an attacking midfielder but can play anywhere along the front line. At the Under-17 South American Championship he finished as the joint top scorer with 5 goals, and he's also made a couple appearances for River Plate at the senior level. He looks like a superstar in the making, and the comparisons are already being made with Lionel Messi, since he does play a similar play style, as he's great at holding onto the ball in those tight spaces, and his main asset is his dribbling ability. The likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona are monitoring him, and he does have a release clause in his contract, so I won't be surprised to see him make a big move pretty soon, especially if he impresses at this World Cup. Now in Group E we've got France, Burkina Faso, South Korea and the United States, and in fourth place I've got Burkina Faso, and they'll be hoping to replicate what the Under-17s did in the 2001 World Cup, where they reached the semi-final. And when watching them in the AFCON Under Under-17s. Their build-up play is fantastic and they caused teams a lot of issues with their pace and trickery, but the problem was the finishing and they wasted a lot of good chances, so they need to be a bit more clinical in this World Cup if they want to stand a chance at getting out of the group. As for the player to watch, 16-year-old striker Soliman Alio, who was given player of the tournament at the Under-17 AFCON and particularly impressed in the quarter-final against Nigeria. He used to be a right winger, but the coach moved him to centre forward, and he's a very athletic player and always seems to be making things happen. He was involved in everything good that Burkina Faso did, along with Abubakar Kamara, who's also a player to keep an eye on. Now in third place, I've gone with the United States. They lost in the final of the Under-17 CONCACAF Championships 3-1 to Mexico, and they weren't really that impressive in the tournament. The big thing that the team was lacking was pace up front, so they brought in two wingers in Mufasa Berakimas and Bryce Jamison, which should add a bit more dynamism into the front line, but I'm not sure this team really has the depth in quality that the past Under-17 teams have, or the quality that the current US Under-20 team has. As for my player to watch, I've gone with the striker Karol Figueroa, who is the son of the famous Honduran international Manuel Figueroa, but he has chosen to represent the US over Honduras, but he's very highly rated and currently plays for the Liverpool Under-18s. He scored 7 goals in the CONCACAF Championships. My only worry about him is that he's just returned from a lengthy back injury, so we'll have to see if he's fully fit. But out of all the players in the Under-17 squad, I think this guy could make the leap to the senior team. Now in second place, I've gone with South Korea. They lost the Under-17 Asian Cup final to Japan, but up until that point they were very free scoring. They put 6 past Qatar, 4 against Afghanistan, 3 against Australia, and they looked really dangerous going forward. It was just the final against Japan which let them down. But for South Korea, they've got 2 players who really shone at the Under-17 Asian Cup, and they were striker Kim Myung-jun and winger Yoon Do-young, who both scored 4 goals. 16-year-old Yoon Do-young plays in the K-League Under-18s division, and as I said before, the South Korean attack was really impressive, and these 2 exciting talents were a big part of that. And I think that the forward line is really going to cause some teams a lot of problems, which is why I've got them to finish second. And in first place, I have gone with France. Now, going into the Under-17 Euros, France weren't considered the favourites. This current 2006 squad wasn't as highly rated as the 2005 squad that had Zaire Emery in it, but they ended up reaching the final, beating both England and Spain on the way there, then losing the final on penalties to Germany. So the French kids definitely surprised a few with their performance, which was refreshing after how awful the Under-20s were in the World Cup just a few months ago. As for the player to watch, I'm going for Matthias Lamborde, who can play either as a striker or a winger. He currently plays for the Rennes B team, but he does have a senior appearance for Rennes and is a very highly rated striker. He's been a very prolific goal scorer at youth level, and I'm excited to see how he does at the World Cup. Now in Group F, there is Mexico, Germany, Venezuela and New Zealand, and in fourth I've gone with New Zealand, who are regulars to this tournament since Australia moved from the Oceania Confederation to Asia. New Zealand have won the last 8 OFC Under-17 championships in a row, and their best finish in the World Cup has been the round of 16, so they'll be looking to go further this time. However, I'm not sure about this team. Whilst they did win the OFC Under-17 championships, they didn't win it as convincingly as past New Zealand sides have. New Caledonia gave them a scare in the group stage and in the final. Then last month they went over to Japan to play some preparation games where they were really poor. They lost to Niigata Under-17s, which is a city in Japan, and then they lost to Venezuela Under-17s, who are in their group, and the performances were very concerning. As for the player to watch, striker Luke Suppick looked very sharp in the Under-17s Championship, finishing top scorer on 6 goals, and last month he signed a professional contract for A-League side Wellington Phoenix, so he's definitely one to look out for in this tournament. Now in third place I've got Venezuela, and this is only their second ever appearance at the Under-17 World Cup. The last time was 10 years ago where they lost every game, but in the South American Championships they did quite well. They got beat by the big teams like Argentina and Brazil, but they beat the teams like Paraguay, Chile, Bolivia, and that was enough for them to get 4th place and qualify. They've already beaten New Zealand 1 month ago, so I'd expect them to win against them again, so that will be enough to put them in third. As for the player to watch, winger David Martinez is one of the most highly rated talents in South America. He made his debut in the Venezuelan Premier Division at age 16. He's appeared for the Venezuela Under-20s where he showed his talent, and he's been signed by Ajax where he will move to when he turns 18, so he's definitely one to keep keep an eye. Now in second, I've got Mexico. They've got a very impressive record at all youth levels, but particularly the under-17 level, where they've won 5 CONCACAF championships in a row. They've won the under-17 World Cup twice, and in the last edition they finished runners-up, losing in the final to Brazil. But this dominance at youth level hasn't really translated into any success at the senior level, and Mexico definitely have a problem turning these under-17 talents into senior professionals. But always, I think Mexico team will do well, and the player who stood out the most in the CONCACAF under-17s was striker Stefan Carrillo, so he's going to be my player to watch. He finished the competition on 8 goals, but it's not just his goal scoring that was impressive, it was his all-round play with him holding up the ball, and he's got a very good touch, so we'll have to see how he gets on. And finally, in first place, I have got Germany. Now, I think Germany are the favourites to win the whole competition. At the Euros, they were supposed to be in the group of death with France and Portugal, but they dominated the group and went on to win the Euros. They've got some incredible talents, and there was 3 players in particular that helped them win the Euros. The first one is Dortmund Academy winger Paris Burner. However, last week he was suspended by Dortmund for disciplinary reasons, and it's unclear whether he'll be called up to the Under-17 World Cup squad. If he isn't called up, that is a huge miss, as he is supposed to be the face of German youth football, and he's very highly rated. The second player is attacking midfielder / winger Noah Darvic. He came through the Freiburg Academy, and after the Euros he put in such an impressive performance. He was signed for Barcelona, and he's been playing for the B team. A very skillful and technical player, and if Brunner isn't at the World Cup, Germany will be looking towards Noah Darvic to step up in his absence. And the third player is central midfielder Hassan Rodrigo. He was phenomenal in the Euros, but it's unclear whether he'll be going to the World Cup as of yet, because this season he's broken into the Schalke first team. He's been that good. He's already got 10 appearances for Schalke this season, so I think there's a chance that Schalke won't let him go. So if both Brummer and Rodrigo, who were such key talents to the Euros win, aren't called up, that massively affects Germany, and I don't think they win the competition without those two. So that is my predictions done. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe, as there'll be more international football content coming on the way soon.